This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
Improving health is about so much more than just losing weight. But I realize weight loss might be the goal that brought you here to the Begin Within podcast. That's why I wrote my latest book, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss, to reveal the 5 areas that I see are most overlooked by the people that I work with who want to lose weight. Each one of the chapters in this free ebook describes that specific area that you need to focus on to improve your health and get great permanent results. And it also links back here to episodes of the podcast where we've had experts on the show talking about that specific area. So you can benefit from those previous episodes while you're learning about how to maximize the results that you're after. You can get your free copy of my ebook, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss, by going to beginwithin.fit/ebook or going to the link in the show notes. Now is a great time to do a little multitasking while you're listening to the start of this episode. Head over to grab your free copy of my book, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss. If you missed the URL, here it is again, beginwithin.fit/ebook, or there is a link in the show notes for you. Grab your copy, and now let's get on with today's episode. My guest today is Teresa Herndon. She is a nurse practitioner and a hormone health expert. And our episode today is going to cover some hormone health basics. She has so much knowledge in this area. It just absolutely blew me away. The ease with which she talks about hormones, which is a very complicated subject. Of course, we all appreciate that, and so we're happy to have somebody who can explain it to us, and she's going to do that here today. Here's some of the things that we're going to cover in the interview. We're going to talk about warning signs. What are some signs that hormones are causing some issues for you? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the value of a couple of things, one of which we've covered a lot here on the Begin Within Health show, and that is sleep. So listen as Teresa talks about that, and then also we're going to talk about protein. So enjoy this episode about hormone health basics with my guest, Teresa Herndon.
For people who aren't familiar with hormones, they probably think of, like, for a woman, that time of the month when they get a little moody and they're on their cycle, or for men, we think about testosterone because that's the main one in males. But there's actually so many more hormones at play. There's, your thyroid, there's cortisol, which, kind of controls like your diurnal rhythm. It's what gets you up in the morning, gives you energy, and it goes down throughout the day. And people who, have hormone imbalances, that sometimes flip-flopped. And so they have cortisol spikes at night and it keeps them up, keeps them awake. They have a hard time sleeping. There's, hormones that have to do with appetite and satiety. There's a hormone called leptin. It's like called the satiety hormone. It's basically when your brain gets a signal that you're full to stop eating. There's insulin, which is also a hormone, which a lot of people might be more familiar with because it has to do with, something monitored with diabetes, or should be monitored with diabetes. I should say a lot of, traditional practitioners don't run testing on these other hormones. They know about them, but they don't necessarily test for them. And that's a lot of what I do is I test actual hormone levels and help people make lifestyle changes to improve those.
Okay.
It's kind of
Awesome.
like an overview of
Yeah.
different hormones, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So, if we even like dial it back to
Uh-huh.
what what is a hormone? I mean, I'm thinking here's my like
Ah, okay.
lay person, like if I could say like if I was gonna explain it to like a 5-year-old, I'd be like, it's a chemical that your body makes that
Yeah. So a
regulates what
hormone
your
is
body
a
does.
messenger in the
Okay.
body. It's a chemical messenger. So it sends a signal to tell your body to do something. Um, so kind of going back to that example of the cortisol, your body, your adrenals that sit on top of your kidneys secrete cortisol, and it tells your body to go into, to wake up in the morning, to go into fight or flight mode. If you're being chased by a bear, it's like the primal example. Progesterone, for example, that's predominant in the second half of a woman's cycle. That's what actually stimulates the capability to implant an egg and hold a pregnancy. So it sends that message to do something and to maintain something.
Hmm.
Thyroid hormone, which is something, yeah, I mean, you can't live without it. It controls your metabolism, your energy, your brain health, bone health, cellular health. It's constantly sending a signal out to all the cells in the body to basically do their job optimally.
Hmm. I'm thinking as I'm listening that we and I think we do this a lot in fitness realm too, is like we say like this thing does this.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm listening, I'm the thought that I'm having is like there's like this like cocktail right within us, and things are just flowing around in different levels, and they're going to optimize our health. And I think it's good to know like what they primarily do, but is it about optimizing one for like this one thing it does, or is it more about having a good balance of like an interrelationship of hormones? Is this, I'm probably sounding
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
that's
know
a great
nothing
question.
about
So,
this.
yeah, it's actually a little bit of both, in my opinion. So, obviously, you need a good balance across the board because if, one thing goes bad, the rest kind of go bad too. It's like the saying, you're only as strong as like the weakest player.
Yeah.
Um, it's similar analogy. When just for general health, you need a balance across the board. If you're struggling with like a specific condition, perhaps like PCOS, for example, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, um, those women tend to struggle with high testosterone levels, and they may not have a problem with progesterone or estrogen, even though, you could have a problem with those in that condition. But if that's the case, then you really have to dial in on like testosterone metabolism. And, you know, testosterone, if it's too high in a woman, often correlates to high insulin or insulin resistance, to where they're not able to fully utilize like the glucose in their system.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a spider web or a big bowl of spaghetti. Like you can pick an individual strand out and look at one hormone, but unless you look at them all together, you're not really going to get the complete picture or complete health across the board.
Gotcha. Okay. You said that a lot
Yeah.
better than I tried to. So awesome. And as I was listening, I'm like PCOS is something that um I think we're hearing a lot more about. I've heard a lot
Mhm.
more about, and maybe I feel like that would, I know we talked about maybe you coming back on the show. Maybe that would be a good topic for another interview, because I feel like
Mhm.
that's like a whole, I mean, obviously a big topic that we
Yeah.
could talk a lot about. What are some signs or symptoms that, because I guess I'm also thinking like probably all of us could optimize our hormones in one way or
Mhm.
another. What are some signs or symptoms that people come to you with that are just kind of like for you red flags where you're like, okay, this is definitely an issue that is being produced by a hormone problem
Mhm.
that I'm, you're just like, okay, you could, I'm sure Teresa at this point, you can probably like, I bet I know what it is before you do the testing. But what I'm just curious on if somebody's listening and they're thinking like, do I have a an issue here serious enough to go get some help? Like what would be some signs and symptoms of that you see people suffering from?
Yeah. So I'll try and narrow it down because, hormones affect, like we said, every system in the body. But the most common ones that I see, um, fatigue would be the biggest one.
Okay.
Um, Trouble sleeping at night. If somebody doesn't have an appetite when they wake up in the morning, like they get up, they don't feel like they need to eat breakfast, they can go until noon, 1 o'clock without eating. That's a big sign that they're running on stress hormones.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, Chronic headaches, dry skin, constipation or diarrhea, bloating. They could have like random skin rashes. And that one is a little kind of off topic, but it ties into gut health, which relates to hormones. Mood imbalances like depression, anxiety, brain fog. Um, what else? Extreme PMS symptoms.
Okay.
Um, Beyond like some people, their mood changes a little bit. They might have some slight cramps. But if you have anything more than that, that's not normal in my book. Like for most women, if to be healthy, healthy period in my book, they should almost be surprised that they're getting their cycle. They
Hmm.
shouldn't be able to, predict it down to the day unless they're tracking or something. But
Okay.
you shouldn't have major PMS, although that's really normalized in our culture.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me. Um, Anemia would be another sign that there's imbalance with the hormones.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
those
So
are the biggest ones that come to
fatigue,
my head off.
yeah, fatigue
Mhm.
is the first one you mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, what I guess what I'm curious about that. Like, I feel like again, like a lot of us, we feel maybe tired from time to time. Like, what is? Tell me more about fatigue. Like, what would that be like? Where it's like, you should get some help right away.
hmm Yeah. So, there's a normal amount of fatigue, like you didn't sleep well the night before and it affects you the next day or something like that, travel, jet lag. But if you're persistently fatigued like every single day, having trouble like being motivated to do your normal tasks, like doing the laundry, cooking, going to
Okay.
work, just normal stuff. If you're not motivated or don't have enough energy to do those things, that's a warning sign. If you're like falling asleep on the couch at night when you watch TV, that's not normal. Um,
Calling
those
me
would
out
be like,
now.
yeah, yeah. Call me up if you have any of those. Yeah.
Um, I so here's one too. I guess another question I have is what I feel like these things should just they should take care of themselves. But what are we doing that's impairing our hormone health so much? Like what are the contributing factors to a lot of the issues? I feel like, the default would be like, oh, it's a genetic whatever, but what are the things that we have control over that we can
Right.
adjust?
So there's, lifestyle and diet are the two biggest factors, in my opinion. And you did touch on, genetics there, which it does play a huge role. Conditions do tend to be passed down in the families, but our genes are just a matter of how they exhibit themselves based on our environment.
Okay.
So our lifestyle tells our genes how to behave. So our genes are not our destiny, but they definitely do have a role. Um, in what are we doing that's messing up our hormones so bad? There's a lot of different things, but just the biggest things that I see would be not getting enough sleep or not getting enough quality sleep, spending too much time on computers, devices at night. The blue light from screens actually, it goes through your eyes. It tells your brain, your pineal gland to stop producing melatonin, tells you to stay awake. Melatonin is your sleepy hormone. So when people are on computers, late at night, they're getting that signal to stay awake, stay awake. And then, without that melatonin surge, which is actually another hormone, they're not going to sleep restfully. Our food system is, a whole other topic. I could do like a whole podcast on that. But if you look at the ingredients in foods, everything's adulterated with seed oil. So canola, safflower, sunflower, soybean are the biggest ones. And those are, they can be touted as heart healthy, but in my opinion, they're actually quite the opposite. They're very pro-inflammatory. So a lot of, just like the standard American diet is way too high in omega-6s, which is the omega fatty acid that's found in seed oils or vegetable oils. And when you have an imbalance between your omega-3s like fish oil and omega-6s, you tend to be tipped more into inflammation. And inflammation is, at the root of just basically every health problem that I've ever seen. So cooking with things like butter, ghee, coconut oil, olive oil is going to be a lot more healthy for your hormones and just your health in general. What's another thing? A lot of people don't eat enough of the right foods. So most people don't eat enough protein to maintain, proper muscle health. Without protein, you're not going to be satiated, along with, fiber and fat and other things in your diet. But most people I see are, just not eating a diet that's conducive to hormone health, or maybe been on like a restrictive diet for a long time, like vegetarian or vegan, or they cut out entire food groups in the name of health. But that can lead to nutritional deficiencies over time. And so I know earlier I mentioned anemia, which is, most commonly being low in iron. That can have a huge impact on your hormones, especially your thyroid hormone, because it actually needs iron to make more thyroid hormone.
Okay. And obviously thyroid's regulating our metabolism, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
the one that gets blamed for a lot of, people that feel like they weigh more than they want to. They want to lose body fat. They say they have a slow thyroid. Um, and that's sometimes the reason behind it. So
Yeah. Yeah, that is a culprit. A lot of times, people with low thyroid function will often gain weight for no reason, or the opposite. If they have high thyroid function, they'll lose weight without trying. Um, so yeah, correcting a thyroid imbalance will definitely help um, maintain a normal weight for sure.
yeah, yeah, and that's so interesting to me. And I'm sure when as you were learning all of this, how I think we hear about, calories in, calories out, which obviously a lot of us we're kind of over that,
Mhm.
as like that's the key to getting what you want, in terms of physical, results with fitness. Um, but how interesting it is that some of those things, like I have this all online. I'm doing what you know, I should, the calorie calculator tells me to do. I'm sticking to it, and I'm not losing weight. Is a lot of times the issue then something with hormone health in your
Mhm.
experience?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be hormone health, or it could be something that maybe contributes to imbalanced hormones. So there's a variety of like environmental factors, like heavy metal toxicity. Mold toxicity is a huge cause of people not being able to lose weight. Um, there are like chronic gut infections that you can have, like Helicobacter pylori. There's, just like dysbiosis in the gut that could be present that could all contribute to like malabsorption of nutrients, or, not absorbing the nutrients from your food,
Okay.
maldigestion. Those could all indicate or contribute to hormone imbalances as well.
Wow. Okay. I got a question this might put you on the spot a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, because I also, I don't think that, as any of us are listening, or that any of us are like, "Psh, I'm good to go," because I think we all could definitely make improvements in the areas we've talked about. But if somebody was, um, just like, Teresa, tell me what one thing I could start doing that would have the biggest positive impact on my hormone health. In your
One.
opinion, what would it be? I know you mentioned sleep, nutrition. Is it one of those? Is there something else like that would have maybe the biggest impact?
Can
Or
I
is it
name
just,
three?
sure. Yeah.
Three. I don't know if I could narrow it down to just one, because in my opinion, everything just has such a huge role. But
Yeah.
um, I guess in order of importance, I would say um, filter your water. I know we didn't talk about that yet, but
Okay.
there's a lot of nasty things in tap water, city water, that just we shouldn't be consuming, that can really interfere with our thyroid hormone production and communication. So, what I recommend is using a reverse osmosis water filter, and then remineralizing your water, because an RO system just strips out basically everything, but we need, minerals, micronutrients for just overall health. So just remineralizing with a quality supplement there. So that'd be number one. Number two would be cutting out like the seed oils, the vegetable oils, like we talked about, and
Okay.
just cooking with, you know, real fats, things that
Okay.
aren't, heavily processed. And then number three would be sleep better, get better quality sleep, which is,
Awesome.
a whole nother topic in and of itself. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, have you ever tested anyone and you're like, wow, you're perfect. Your hormones are right where they should be?
nope.
I think it's probably like
No.
we had somebody on, we were talking about the microbiome and gut bacteria and like
Yeah.
who's got it just like dialed in at this point in the world that we live in, right? We're so influenced, oftentimes in a negative way, by all these environmental factors and lifestyle, pressure in the
Mhm.
culture we live in and things like that. So, interesting. Um, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you and to get some support when it comes to hormone health?
Yeah, so the two ways to get in touch with me would be one through my website, which is noblewellnessconsulting.com. Or I'm also pretty active on Instagram. You can reach me at Noble Wellness CO. Just send me a DM there. Either way.
Okay, awesome. Teresa Herndon, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Links to connect with Teresa are in the show notes waiting for you. So please get in touch with her, especially if you're experiencing some of those warning signs that we talked about in the episode. I want to go back to one of the things that she really brought forth as a huge help to having healthier hormones and alleviating some of those symptoms, those signs and symptoms that we talked about at the outside of the interview. And that was, of course, sleep, right? Good quality sleep. We've addressed that before on the show. And, we've even had experts like Teresa more than once, multiple times, who have said sleep is it. Man, if there's one area that you are going to focus on to maximize not just your hormone health, right, but just health in general, the one that's going to give you the biggest, return on your investment, it is sleep. Sleep. Put your focus there. And I know maybe you're sick of hearing about it from me. Maybe you're like, oh, here we go again. I can't get any better sleep. I believe you can. I believe we all can. It's one of those areas, right, that we focus on. It's one that we focus on with our clients, and we teach sleep improvement habits right in our app. Real basic stuff, nothing like Teresa does, but real basic stuff in our app, because it is such an important piece of overall health, and because I think that we can all improve in the quality of the sleep that we're getting. Now, how do we do it? How do we begin? Well, you know how I love to begin. It's easy. Start easy. Think about your own sleep routine and pick something easy that you can improve, that you believe is going to improve the quality of your sleep. Just try to stick to it for a little while and see how it works. You know, one of the things that I work on with clients the most is bedtime. We talk about bedtime a lot because, quite frankly, we are terrible at going to bed at a reasonable time, just as a culture, as a society, right? So why not, if you don't have another idea of how to improve your sleep quality, but you do want to move forward in that area in order to benefit your hormone health and your overall health, why not give that some attention? I know I've encouraged you to do that in the past and past episodes, but it's been a little bit of time. It's been a while since we really focused on it. So I want to encourage you, figure out how much sleep you need, which is going to be right about 8 hours a night. So what time do you have to get up, right? And then just backtrack by 8 hours and figure out what time you have got to at least be in bed, right? Ideally to be sleeping, but for sure be able to figure out your bedtime. And then, of course, there's tons of stuff that you can do once you're there in order to fall asleep more quickly. But it all starts with having that time in mind and getting yourself to bed. I know that's the thing for me. So why not this week? Give it a try. Determine what that time is. What's your bedtime? And I know it might feel like you're a little bit of a little kid, now that you have a bedtime, but we all should. We all should have a bedtime. We need to know what time we have to go to bed in order to get a healthy amount of sleep, in order to benefit ourselves in so many different ways. So, what's your bedtime? Calculate it, figure it out, and then give it a try this week. See how you do sticking to it. Can you get 7 out of 7 days in the week? 6 out of 7, 5 out of 7. See what happens. See what you learn. See what you learn about yourself. See what you learn about how you feel the days you do get to bed by your bedtime. And see how you feel the days after you don't get to bed at your bedtime. It's a learning process, right? So give it a try. If you would, take a screenshot of yourself listening to the episode, tag me, and post it so that I can give you a high five. And if you want, tell me what time your bedtime is as well, and I'll share mine with you. And we'll see how it goes this week, right? Just focusing on taking this one step to improve this big area of our health, our hormone health. And I thank you so much for doing the work, for being in the process with me here on the Begin Within Health show.